5. The pilot. Late in the summer of 1944, at the Alamogordo Air Force Base in New Mexico, a fighter pilot named Paul Tibbets got a strange phone call from his father in Miami. "Are you in some kind of trouble, son?" his father asked. Tibbets could hear the concern in his father's voice. "Not that I know of," he answered. "What makes you think so?" "Well," his father began, sounding unsure of whether or not to continue, "I hear some investigators, I think they were from the FBI, have been down here asking questions about you." Tibbets assured his father that it was just another routine check, but he knew better. This was not normal. 29 years old, Colonel Paul Tibbets was an experienced pilot who'd flown combat missions over Europe and North Africa. Now he was back in the States working as a test pilot, helping engineers design the new B-29 bomber. He was one of the best flyers in the country, so he couldn't help but wonder, what exactly have I done wrong? The mystery intensified a few days later when he got another call, this one from Air Force General Uzel Ent, telling him to report right away to Ent's office in Colorado Springs, Colorado. "He told me to pack my bags," Tibbets recalled. "I would not be returning." Tibbets flew to Colorado and walked into Ent's headquarters the next morning. He was met by Colonel Jon Lansdale of Army Counterintelligence. Lansdale led Tibbets into a small side office. "I'd like to ask you a couple of questions before we go in to see General Ent," said Lansdale. Without explaining his purpose, he began talking about my personal history, remembered Tibbets. His couple of questions stretched into an interrogation from which I soon discovered that he knew more about me than I could possibly remember about myself. "Have you ever been arrested?" Lansdale finally asked. Tibbets' mind raced back 10 years to a night on a beach in Florida. He and his girlfriend had driven to a dark spot and climbed into the back seat. A while later, they were startled by the sudden glare of a policeman's flashlight. Could Lansdale really know about that? He must, figured Tibbets. He knows everything else. Tibbets decided to tell Lansdale the story. Lansdale listened without comment. Then he stood and said, "Now let's go see General Ent." Tibbets followed Lansdale into Ent's office, where the general sat at his desk. There were two other men there, a naval officer and a man in a suit. Ent introduced Tibbets to Navy Captain William Parsons and Dr. Norman Ramsey, a professor of physics. "I'm satisfied with Colonel Tibbets," Lansdale announced. "That's good," said Ent. "I felt sure you would be." Ent then told Tibbets he had been chosen for a vital mission, a top-secret mission. Everything Tibbets was about to hear, Ent cautioned, would have been concealed, even from his wife, even from the pilots and crews who would be working under him. Then Ent turned to Professor Ramsey, saying, "Now you take over." Ramsey asked Tibbets, "Did you ever hear of atomic energy?" Oppenheimer scientists had not yet built an atomic bomb. It was far from certain they could, but U.S. military planners had to think ahead. If a bomb were built in time to affect the outcome of the war, it would need to be dropped by plane. A pilot needed to be chosen and given special training. Paul Tibbets got the job. Tibbets learned the basics of how the atomic bomb would work and approximately how powerful the explosion might be. Using this information, it was his task to devise a strategy for flying the bomb over enemy territory, releasing it on target, and getting away before the massive blast killed everyone in the plane. Given the freedom to pick his own training site, Tibbets selected a base in Wendover, Utah, a remote spot surrounded by salt flats. There was no place nearby for fun-loving men with 6-hour passes to get into trouble and possibly leak information, explained Tibbets. Then Tibbets chose his flight crews, handpicking many of the men he'd flown with earlier in the war. He wouldn't tell them what their new mission was or warn them never to ask. "We didn't want them even to speculate," said Tibbets, "or to give out a hint that our operation was different from any other." Known as the 509th Composite Group, Tibbets' mysterious team was officially activated on December 17, 1944. At the age of 29, I had been entrusted with the successful delivery of the most frightful weapon ever devised, Tibbets recalled. Although the weapon was beyond my comprehension, there was nothing about flying an airplane that I did not understand. If this bomb could be carried in an airplane, I could do the job.